Now I'm going to mute you all, if that's okay with you, with you
Yep.
people, because that's our way to that I can speak without being interrupted all the time.
Mhm.
See how it's done. Manage participants. That's good. Mute all. Yes. Okay. You're all muted. Sorry. And I'm going to start with a share screen where I prepared a bit of a presentation that where I can explain, and it helps me with the visuals to show you the story of the mandala. So here we are. Okay, let's hope it works well. So what you see now, in fact, before I even start, is in fact the endless move that starts from the seed of life, which we're going to draw today, but it becomes the flower of life, and it's endless and it's beautiful. So in the beginning, God created the earth and the heavens. So
Sorry,
from
Matti,
that,
are you recording this?
yeah, I've just started recording. That's why I stopped.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so and yes, and afterwards I'll send you the link. So the big circle of life was formed by that creation of the heavens and the earth that surround the roundness of the earth, and from the center point, the bindu, which is called the bindu, the center, the beginning where it all starts, the universe had started and spread out endlessly. Now, when we draw a mandala, all this is very nice, but when we draw a mandala, it serves us as an intuitive mirror to our essence, to our soul. It's a healing journey in many, many cases into the soul. The soul uses color, shapes, textures, and images, what Jung used to call archetypes, or calls archetypes. And it's in a way, you can think of the mandala as a map to your soul. It's a map that sees, that you can actually see all kinds of hints of what's going on with you at that time. It can be done when you make a very strong line around all kinds of areas that you want to protect, or you make it very diffused, very open, and there you don't want to protect, you want to get out or try other things. There's all kinds of ways that you can actually figure the mandala, and therefore, I mean, Jung actually has the Red Book actually teaches how to diagnose and take care of people through the mandala. The meaning of mandala is a sacred circle. It's in Sanskrit, and it can be. It's always the only real thing that we're talking about is the circle. All the rest of the things, by the way, not just the circle, also the spiral. But those are the two main items that follow the creation of mandala. And a mandala is an area of energetic patterns that help us understand ourselves and the world we live in. And it sounds so bombastic, right? But in the end of the day, it's all you want is have fun, you know, just draw a little mandala and don't fill my head with all kinds of stuff. But it's more than just that. Do remember that, and give it a bit more credit than just a bit of fun time to pass on. So we encounter mandalas all over, wherever we live. It's in flowers. This cauliflower that you can see here is just an amazing. It's amazing because it repeats itself. It's the small pieces are like the big piece, and the smaller you cut it, still the same shape is there. And the succulents and flowers and the fruit, when you cut fruit into half, or pine cones and many, many other things. You see it also in the shape of microorganisms, or of course the snowflake, or in shells. This is Nautilus, so it's a very special one because it actually goes with using the Fibonacci golden ratio. The way it grows is 1.168 or something of that sort. and it grows in a it's amazing because it's a natural thing, but it's mathematically, it's perfect. And we also see it in storms, in the eye of the storm, and we see it also in the way the galaxies expand. And they expand in a very certain mathematical routine. And don't you can't if you feel that you can if you think that you want to interrupt or say something, not interrupt, but want to say something, do feel free to press on your mute sound and help me when you feel that I was a bit wrong. You see it in the cobwebs of the spider, and you see it in the different seashells and sea stars and all that. So the mandala is all around us. It's always been there. And from the early times, people actually built monuments such as Stonehenge or this, I'm not sure how to translate it into English, but it's the wheel of ghosts, or Galgal Rephaim in Hebrew. It's in the Golan Heights, but it's from it's ancient, and it was a temple. We think it was a temple. You also see the carvings on the walls. Many of the carvings will show, by the way, usually the spiral will show the sun, which is very interesting, or the universe around us. And many times they do draw a circle to show the wholeness of the human being. We find the mandalas in the Jewish, in Judaism, in the Aztec. These are the timetables, the astrological timetables in the Aztec culture. We see it definitely in the Celtic culture, and as I say, today we're going to give it a bit of a touch towards that direction. Indian and Tibetan, of course, mandala comes. We know the word from there, and it's they know that it's a sacred circle much longer than the rest of us, or without actually calling it that way. Islam, I went to a few beautiful mosques, and the whole interior is drawn with mandalas, and it's amazing. Aborigines drew these maps of their big dream, the walking in the dream thing, the walkabout, and they created beautiful and amazing art using dots. And dots has become has become a very popular thing in the world of mandala. We see it in the Honshu, the Japanese Honshu, which has its statement of incompleteness. And we see it in Christianity, also in the big churches and the big cathedrals, especially in the big cathedrals where they have the big windows that are usually formed in a round mandala shape. Indian culture, it's all around in so many different ways, it's hard even to express. Native American, the Dreamcatcher, and many other things in Navajo create a lot of things that have to do with the circle and with sand and earth and
Sure.
Can you hear me? No, you can't hear me. Can you hear me well? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, this thing I have to change. It's not very good. You find it with the big mother spider who she actually weaves her webs, and that way she actually protects her people and teaches them how to weave. In the Persian culture, the mandalas are, because in Islam basically they're not allowed, so the Jews not allowed to draw figures. They drew a lot of it's called doodling, in fact, mandalas. So it's all over. You go to Morocco and you find it there. You go to Persia, it's amazing, and you can see just a touch of it here. And it's become quite popular in street art. You can actually find mandalas in street art. This is a Polish artist who draws on the sidewalks. And as you can see, it's quite an amazing experience. There's also an artist called Simon Beck who draws by walking in the snow. You can see it on the left-hand side. That's one sample. He's worth following. The man is amazing. I don't know how he actually feels, because he has an inner compass to actually create something so amazing just by walking. Because this is huge. This is not 2 meter by 2 meter. This can be a few tenths of meters, and so it's quite big. There's the whole story of the crop circles. I don't know if any of you have followed it, but it's they're usually mandalas, and some of them are actually done by people. Actually, they actually go and harvest it. They actually cut it. But in many cases, it's the soil is different, so it actually grows differently. So that's where it started. Afterwards, people started doing it themselves, but it's as if some kind of a language towards the universe, towards the aliens or something, because it's not something that we can actually see by when we do it, and when we create it. It's quite a mystery, an amazing mystery. This is a Jewish one, but in Arabic there's a lot of it, and in Islam, these are writing to drawing writing. It's called micrography, and it's here we see the seed of life as the one we're going to draw today, and fish around. So it's something they by writing they draw it. Something worth trying maybe to do. This mandala has a lot to do with writing. A lot of people write thoughts, feelings, things, wishful thinking, things they'd like to have, and or like other people to. So you can express it by word. The word has a very strong meaning and way of saying things. So it's important to use the language, but in a careful way, not as a curse. On the right-hand side, you can see the lower part of the right-hand side. You can see a mandala created out of grains. People have done it to show their appreciation and thanksgiving to what they can actually what they see around them, and thanksgiving for the food they have. And they created such a beautiful mandala from grain. I haven't mentioned, and I forgot, and now I notice I forgot, that in India, there's the women in southern India that they draw mandalas on the floor. You must have met it before or seen it before. They draw it on the floor, on the sidewalk in the front of the house, and in a way it's saying we give plenty to the world, and the world will give plenty to us, because they do it with flour, with rice flour. In fact, to feed the little creatures, or the mice and the spiders and the whatever. And by doing that, they're bringing the goodness into their lives. So they do it every day, and during the day, people pass by and, of course, destroy it. The next day, they come and they clean it up and they start all over again. So it's like a routine that is done on a daily basis. The other thing is the Tibetan monks who create mandalas out of sand. They create a mandala, usually it's a Kalchakra or others, and they create them between 8 to 10 days around the clock. When they finish, they meditate for a few days on the mandala that they've created, and then, of course, they destroy it and throw it back to Mother Earth, and all to show us that everything is passing and going, and life is, and we are here for a minute, and we're going on, and we're going on to another place, and it's good. It's to remind us and to show us that life is not such a serious thing. We should enjoy what we have, and it's very, very important to remember this, especially in this time when we're all locked away in our houses and everything is changing. To remember that it reminds us, in a sense, the corona and the mandala, they both remind us that we're only temporarily here in this phase, and it shows us humility, because we assume that we have control over our lives, and then a little small something can change it all, and suddenly we are not in control of our lives. And it's good to remember that. It's very important to remember that. This we saw already. Okay, Carl Jung. So who hasn't heard about Carl Jung, one of the fathers of modern psychology, and he developed a method for the diagnosis and treatment using the mandala. And I know of therapists who actually use this as a way of helping people. And in fact, in a way, I find that when I'm not a therapist, so I'm always very careful with this. But I know that people actually go through a healing process drawing the mandala. So I've seen it. I've been witnessing it for quite a few years. So it's a wonder. It's a wonder always to watch it. And now we'll move to the seed of life. Okay, we're going to start. I'm trying to think what's better. No, I'm going to move on now to the real life. Stop share. Hi there. And here I am. I'm going to put this, and we're going to start. Yeah. This is our piece of paper. Now we're going to start drawing the mandala with instructions. Most of you know I've done this many times before. My paper is 25 by 25, so I used a 5 by 5. The width of the compass should be 5 centimeters. If you're bigger than that, if it's 35 by 35, it should be 7. If it's 30 by 30, it's 6. And if it's 21 by 20 by 21, or 21 by 29.7, then it's 4. Shall I repeat that?
Yes, please.
21 is going to be, can you see what I'm writing here? 21 should be 4, 25 should be 5, 30 should be 6, and 35 should be 7, and even 40, stay with 7. I think it's, otherwise it becomes too big. Okay? Okay. And now we take the compass after we've measured the 5 centimeters, and we're creating the first circle. And you know what, I'm going to do it with something you can actually see, because the light
After
here
you
is not
find
good
the
enough.
center of the paper.
Oh, so sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Trying to follow you.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, how do we find the middle of the paper?
The bindu.
The bindu. That's right. The bindu can be found by making a cross between opposite sides of the paper. That's one side, and I do one line. I go to the other side. Don't do it too strongly. I'm doing it strongly so you can see, but don't do it strongly, because you're going to have to erase most of it. And this is my center. This is the center. This is the bindu. This is where it all starts. And in fact, let's see if I think there's something in there I wanted to show you about that. There's something else I wanted to say. You know what? Stay with me right here as you are, and for a minute I want to move on back to here. Wait, where am I? There. Because I did want to give a bit of a background about the seed of life. So here we are. Okay, so I'm going back to the presentation for a minute, just so you can see. So the seed of life is the manifestation of creation. This pattern is found in many cultures throughout Mesopotamia, which is our area, Europe, Greece, and Rome, Central and Southern America, and Rome, Greece and Rome, yeah, ancient times, Central South America and the Far East. And the seed of life is a foundation stone of sacred geometry. It's something that repeats and comes back again and again. Every time you think, I'm doing something completely different, suddenly it pops up. It's over there. It's waiting. It's in the basis of what you do. And it does tell the story of the creation. One of the manifestations of the seed of life is, or the flower of life, is what's called the Metatron's cube. I don't know which one of you have encountered with it, but I think later on I can show a couple examples of it. So when we start creating a mandala, we begin by looking at the entire page and narrowing down to a point, which is the bindu. The infinite potential becomes real and specific. What I mean by saying that is that point that we create, that bindu, that's one point that is the center of the mandala, has all the potential of all the mandalas in the world. And in fact, when we create the mandala, when we create our mandala, we are distracting from the endless options, and we choose one option out of the many. And by doing that, we actually find that we're narrowing the options. And it's strange because we think we're always growing, but in fact, in a sense, we're distracting. Drawing the first circle is self-presentation. This circle is me. Between the bindu and the circle is my self-expression. That's in the mandala, in reading the mandala, there's a theory about reading the mandala, which is mainly intuition, to be truthful. We find that the mandala, the first circle is me, between me and myself, and self-expression. Usually it's strong and very dominant because first of all, we look at ourselves. And when we go on and on, we look at the family, the small family, the close family, and then the far family, and then our friends, and it grows on and on. So it's part of the reading of the mandala. Why did they do that? Okay. Okay, ancient. The seed of life is, as I said, is one of the most ancient. I think it was the first time it was discovered is in the pyramids in 6,000 before Christ. So it's a long time back. Here you see a mosaic from Herodion in Israel, which is about when was Horus? It would be about around Christ's time. Yes, Horus was around Christ's time. And you can see that Leonardo da Vinci, that was known that he explored both nature and art, and you can see that he was looking into the flower of life and how it manifestates himself in the life. So that's Leonardo da Vinci, and now we're going to start. So this is what we did before. This was the part where we are. We did the cross to find the center, and now we're going to move back to the real life. So now the second part is cleaning up, erasing all those lines that we've just made because we don't need them, and it's very important to erase them, especially now. Usually, in some cases, I even say to people, leave them as they are, but in this case, it's very important because otherwise. We divide the mandala is divided into 6, and having the division of 4 here, that's the vision that we had, was the division of 4. In fact, we kind of not, we don't allow, we might get mixed up. That's what I'm trying to say. So I've taken my my compass and I've measured it, and now I'm going to create my first circle. Okay, that's a beautiful one circle, and I'm going to just not don't do as I do. In fact, and what I mean is, don't use other colors or things like that. And when you create it, excuse me, when we're drawing it, because I'm doing this so you can see what I'm doing. That's all. Now we're going to find a random dot on the circum. That word, help me. Circumference. Thank you. And we find that dot and we create. This is my, just to make sure it's the same size. Okay. And we create our first or our second circle. And what we have found here in between those two circles is called in Christianity, they call it Visca Pisces, the bladder of the fish, which was a symbol of Christ. It's also symbolizes the third eye and the mother's womb. So it's a very important thing. And another thing, it comes from the world of nature, of biology. This is the mitosis, when one cell becomes two cells. And in fact, this is the creation of life that is actually, that's the way we are created. So it's a very important sign, and it's used in many places, especially I think I saw it in the British Isles and all kinds of places, especially the mystical parts of the British Isles. So I like saying that British Isles. England is right, I know. I know, Julian. So now we've got, once we created the two circles, we've got now 2 points, 2 meeting points, one on the right and one on the left. From each one of these, we create another circle. One from this side, from the right side, and one from the left side. Here I am. Okay, and now we've got 2 more meeting points, one here and one here on each side, on the right and the left. And we create another circle from each. And as you can see, in many cases, it doesn't become perfect. Don't feel uncomfortable about it. The mandala is very forgiving, and it always balances as we go along. Don't worry too much if it's not perfect. That not all the lines got in the way and got together, aligned together. And we've got the 6th point, the last one, in the middle between, in fact, 3 circles. And from there we create the last 6th circle. And here we are, we've got the flower, which is the seed of life. And it's, as I said, it's 6 days and the Sabbath. 6 days of creation, and then we rest. I think someone sent me a chat. I hope everything, okay. Nothing to do with that. And now we actually created the seed of life. Now I've done this, I've created it before, so I can continue from here to make this change in it, to make it into something that will be resemble the Celtic knot art. We're going to change the size of the circles that we're going to use. Okay, so if before we used, let me see, I wrote it somewhere, didn't I? Did I erase it? Yeah, here it is. It was 4, 20, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 7 now. So now it's going to be, we're going to shrink them. We're going to make them smaller. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? For each different size. So now I'm going to go and on the same spots that we used before, and I'm going to emphasize them here so you can see. These are the center spot and then the 6 spots around. From each one of these, from the center, we create this second circle. One is here. The second one is here. Third one is here. I could have written numbers of, but I decided that there's not that many of them, so there's no need for us to number them, to mark them. Okay, now the interesting part about, is it okay? You guys finished? Yeah, good. So the whole idea of when we want to create something that is with the knot, the up and down, is we decide we start with one and then we move on to the others. For instance, I decide this one will be the beginning, therefore I'm erasing this part. Can you see what I did? And I'll emphasize it a bit more by using the pencil. And the other side. Don't have to do this, but it helps to see what you're doing. That's why I do it many times. Many times afterwards, I even erase it. Okay, so this one goes above the one that's opposite it. Okay? After we've done the first one, move on to the second one. Now, this was above, so therefore now it's going to be under. And it seems something that is so very simple, but it is not at all. So it's very confusing. Okay, so if I've moved from the first one, as I said, this went from here to here. It went above, and now it's going under. Okay? And now it starts getting mixed up because it's a bit of a maze in there inside. So we're going to try and do it. But if you feel that you're not up to it, you don't want to play this game, that's okay too. This is just one option of what you can do. So if we went here and this was below, this one here is going to be above. And it's going to be very tricky. I didn't realize that this, I should have done it the other way, but that's okay. Okay, here we are. And this is, it went above. Where is it going to go now? When above, we'll go, let's try and give it all above, see what happens. Okay, this goes here. And this goes here. Okay, so this was under and now it's above. How far above would it be? Wow, that's a good question. And this is, again, a matter of our choices along the road. We decide what we're going to play with and what we're not going to play with. What are the, we actually, as if we got that's the reason, in fact, I don't like people to actually download the ready template, because I'm saying your decision is, you have to make the full decisions. You can actually go and start drawing like crazy on it, or you can actually play around. And the creation of the template is a very it's not one option. You decide from many options that are there, which ones you want to take and how you want to come about it. So it can be from something as simple as just a shape, Or then later it can be something like, what do I do with this whole area? How do I come about it? We'll look at it in a minute. I'm going to go a bit more with that, but afterwards we're going to move on to something else. So if this was above, now it's going to be under. Okay, I've decided now I'm going to make it under here. Okay. So it went down above, and now here it was above, and now it's under. And you know what, to make sure where I'm at, to understand myself where I am, this was above, excuse me, so this will go under, right? And here it will, am I right? Yeah. I think so. And if this was under, then here it will go above, and here it will go under. Okay. Now this is just, I'm not going to do the whole thing now. I'm just, the whole idea of playing up and down, that's how it's done. And it's not as simple as it seems, okay? It's like another option, and that's I'm going to show it on this, and you can either do it on what you started drawing, or do something else on the piece of paper on the side. You know what? We're going to start. Take another piece, put it on, get yourself another piece, put that on the side for a minute, because I want to. And you know what? I'm going to show you today only drawing with pencil, with a very basic graphite pencil. And the first exercise I'd like you to do is to start drawing. Where can I make it? It will be okay here. I'm drawing very hard to very, 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 very soft, almost disappearing. And again, very, very strong and dark. Okay, and if it wasn't too good in the beginning, you can return and play around until you get the move of between very dark and very light. This is the whole technique of shading. It is used a lot in drawing. And again, very strong. And make yourself a whole line of these, just starting from very dark to very light, again to very, very dark. Okay, putting it a bit closer so you can see. Now, how is that how can that be used in anything we want to do? If, for instance, we have two lines, and in the end we'll make it like a half circle. Then we start from the very dark to the very light and back to the very dark. And here we've got a can of soda. Or, okay. And it seems like something, you know, people have done it many times and probably saying, oh, this again. And I can tell you that there are times that I sit around with my sketchbook and I'll be doing only this because it's like practicing. It's like if you're a musician, you know that you do the scales up and down again and again and again and again. And it seems, but it's a very relaxing thing to do. And if you put it into not as something that is a chore, but more something that will actually, by using it, it's like a meditation. So play around a lot with the movement from dark to light. And if we take a circle and we do the same thing, the outer parts will be round and the inner parts, and I'm using a round move. Before we doing up and down, this is more of a round move. And naturally, we can't always do rounds perfectly, so sometimes you have to move the paper. So you can actually on and on. And if we would have done a much stronger, darker thing around it, it's like a jewel that comes out of. Okay, that's something that is worth playing around with, and sometimes black and white makes it clearer because when we add color, in many cases, it makes it so much more difficult. Another thing is an elliptic shape, that if we add dark to the outside, can actually become a bit of a bowl. And you can actually add a bit, but not. See, all this is done very mildly and carefully until you find the fine. Now this actually will be, this could be a head of a vase. Now you're probably asking yourself, what does this have to do with Matu Mandala at all? So if we take, and let's see if I don't know where I put it, but that's okay. 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 If I'll take some shape that I've done that is more part of the Zentangle, what's called, or the Zendala, the things that have to do with the mandala, for instance, if I decide I wanted to take this area and make it into a type of a fan. As you can see, I'm not very precise, but I've decided I want to make this area into a fan. So I can draw, closing it up in roundness, or it doesn't, I don't have to. It's one decision, one option of many options that I have to choose. I can leave it like this in very much of the world of Zentangle and Zendala, where we do it with only two-dimensional. We're working with one. We don't try to make it three-dimensional, but if we do want to make it a bit three-dimensional, we can actually play with these, what I just showed you before, and creating something that is more three-dimensional because I'm moving from dark to light to dark. Okay. And suddenly we've got here that is, it makes it into something more, I don't know, looks better in this case. Okay, suddenly this fan has become something much more, I don't know, deeper, three-dimensional. And if we take an area like, let's say these areas, we got a lot of these lines, we have to decide what to do with them. And let's say I go on something like this. God only knows why. Okay, we got these, and then these are the simple shapes of Zendala, or Zentangle, or doodling, depends how you want to call it. And again, by actually not filling it all up or not leaving it all completely empty, I'm doing something in between. And that something in between makes it into okay? And suddenly this area has become much more than just a few lines that are together, okay? Same thing if I decide, then I'm gonna make, this is a very popular one, I like it a lot too. One of the, goes from head to head. Until I'm almost, till I fill it up more or less, okay? Now we can leave it as this because it's already, the scale thing is as beautiful as it is, but if I come from the bottom, okay, and I'm as if making the where they meet, I make them a little dark. And suddenly the scales of the dragon have become three-dimensional. And yes, it takes the time, but I personally find that it's more satisfying once it's finished. I enjoy doing them even without that. Just enjoying the actual process. And suddenly we've got here, this area has become a mountain. And the scales have become three-dimensional and not just the two-dimensional as we know them usually. So the whole concept of doodling, and now, of course, all this has to do a lot, or once we use colors, and I'll add a bit of color, we can play a dual game with the color. One game is, let's use a pen or a marker. Don't want a big marker. Can I find a smaller marker here? Hello? Yes. Okay, let's say I create, again, I'm taking an area that I'm going to take this area. And I'm going to create something with a very thin marker. Okay. Maybe I should use the thick marker because this doesn't work too well. No, it's strong enough. Okay, I'm going to do it with the... Now, as this is already a filling up that you could have said this is enough. I don't have to do anything more than that. That's fine. But as we like to find new ways and new things, I'm trying to think how to make it interesting for me. So I decided, and this is not a very sophisticated decision, but that's what it is. That's what there is. So I made it into this net kind of thing. Now I can decide to actually work with doodling, two-dimensional doodling, such as adding something in here and adding the three-dimensional part, I'll show you in a second, with color. And of course, you know, there's thousands and thousands of samples of doodling and Zentangle and Zendala in the internet, and Pinterest and in Google. Just write doodling and you'll find endless options to show you, remind you. And it's good to be inspired by other people and other ideas. Okay, I've got this, and now it's two-dimensional. It can stay like this. It's great. It does the job. I'm very happy with it. But I want to see what happens when I want to actually use color. And I've decided not to go into the small pieces, but to look at it all. So I'm taking a red color in this case, but it could be any, and making it very dark here, as dark as it can be. Naturally, you'll still see what's in the background. And I'll do the same thing on the other side, very dark on the other side. In the middle, it's not that I'm not going to draw. I'm going to draw very, very lightly. I'm going to sketch it very lightly. And I'll create a situation where it's actually red, but almost white. By doing that, I suddenly created something that is three and two-dimensional together. So remember that you can play with different tools you have. And I personally love playing between the two and the third dimensional situations and seeing. Sometimes I'll flatten something and then I'll make it in almost to a feeling of a mountain. Excuse me. And you can actually, here you can see another sample of playing around between the two and the three-dimensional. Okay. It's still in the middle, so, but this is pure Zentangle, playing around with not a mandala, just playing with the stripes and seeing what happens. So, or on the other hand, go further on with the, this is a nice one. This one here with the pencil. See it? Again, scaly. But you can see that everything that we do here is, in fact, takes from the world of nature, from the natural world, from water swirls and bubbles or stones, and you take them, and how do you take the stones and put it into the world of the mandala? How do you make it into a shape that will be part of the mandala? Sometimes we actually put things from nature as they are. Sometimes we change them. And I want to show you this one over here, the idea that I showed before. These are round half circles. And you'll notice when you do this, no need to be very precise. It's, as I said, the mandala is very forgiving. Okay, so I've done one on this side. And now I'm going to do another one on the other side, the opposite to the ones that I've done already. And between those two half circles, I draw a line, just a line. And now I'm taking one side and drawing. Am I doing this too fast? I don't know. Okay, you're busy. That's good. I'm sorry. I'm making it dark on the base of it, of the rounds. Trying to move from dark to light, but there's not much space for us to play. Naturally, if I would have here a bit more. Okay. And now to the other side. Doing the same thing on the other side. Dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. And then, to make it even, sometimes it's not dark enough, so I'll go back and do it again to make sure the dark is dark enough and the light is not too dark. And then between them, I'm drawing dark to light, dark to light. This definitely has a feel of a reptile. I think I need to make it sharpen it a little bit. Yofi. Okay. And again, I'm going to the other side to create from dark to light. Now it's small spaces, so it's like, have to see that it doesn't become too messy. The whole idea is to play around, to feel the different options. The whole idea of the up and down, the Celtic thing, I decided not to go further because I noticed that it's starting to become quite complicated. And I don't want to make it make a big issue, because we'll get stuck doing just that the whole time. And I wanted to show you a bit more of the options of what you can do with it. For instance, if I didn't decide to do what I did, I decide to take this flower. This is a basis for a flower here in the middle. Then we can actually make it into a beautiful flower. Ugh, this pencil is not right, something to write home about. And again, we can decide to make the flower three-dimensional by playing with dark to light, or not. And sometimes I decide not to stick with what the mandala is offering me. I want to go above it, out of it. Not necessarily, and maybe later on, use these to join. What I mean is that it's very important to be open-minded and not stick only to what the template offers us. See, I'm not being very exact. I'm allowing myself to be very casual about where things start and end. See, and suddenly this area that is becoming something completely different than what I thought it's going to be, and that's the beauty of it, because suddenly, from all kinds of reasons, I understand and I realize that what I started with is not necessarily where I'm going. We've got here a shape of an eye. See the shape of the eye? So I feel like putting the eye, intuitive, and move from one thing to the other. And other times, on the other hand, I try to follow the lines, go through the paths, and you walk on a main road, and then suddenly you take a side path, and you think it's gonna lead you somewhere, and sometimes it's a dead end. Sometimes it doesn't lead you anywhere. Sometimes it's suddenly a beautiful lake that you didn't know even existed there, because you took the other path and not walked on the main road. So in mandala, you play between the two situations, very much like life. We make all kinds of decisions, and I have no idea where I'm going now. I'm just doing what it feels right to me, and the right in this case has nothing to do with what's going to be, how it's going to look in the end, and if I want to put it on the wall. Okay? For instance, this is not such a great case what I did here, but it was an interesting path. So I'm cutting it down a little. So that's the whole concept of how I come about the mandala. Hopefully it suits you too. If not, then you have your own path to follow and find. And it's a beautiful road. And that I say, most of the people that have come here already want to do more than just the basics and wonder of about the mandala. That's why I did this and got myself all mixed up. But all in all, I would like very much to see if you guys manage to overcome this problem, and how you went on from there, because this is more of a logical solution, and we do want to find and see how all this will now mix with the intuitive part, and how the intuition becomes part of it. This is I think this is enough for one day, and I'm sorry that I just went very freely without thinking to the end about certain things, but for me, I will probably do another one soon, and please, I'd love to see what came out of it. So either you send it by or messenger or whichever way you want. I'll love to see what you've done, and hopefully meet you soon. And keep well. That's the most important thing. Please keep well.